Alright guys, welcome to my 31 Days of Halloween, where we explore horror in a different way. Today, I'm going to be going through the top 10 horror films that you should be watching in the month of October, as it fits the spooky fall vibe that Halloween brings. Ultimately, I was looking for horror films that fit the spooky season and really got you in the Halloween mood. So, one big thing, we already know what number one will be, and that's 1978's Halloween. In fact, you could probably put a lot of Halloween movies from that franchise on this list, but I'm going to negate all of them. So, this list is very difficult to make, and especially ranking them. The only one I'm definitely confident on is what I have at number one. But without further ado, let's just begin with our number 10. Pet Sematary from 1989. Yeah, this film is actually a pretty scary movie, and I think it holds up mostly well. Not everything, but mostly everything. You gotta have a Stephen King movie on this list too. This is the only one that made it, but you could have a bunch more. And I'm not saying that this is my favorite Stephen King film, but it fits the Halloween season most, I believe. But from the awesome casting, I think Herman Munster, the guy who played Herman Munster, plays Judd, and his voice, you just gotta love it.
But sometimes that is better.
The twisted nature of the themes explored, losing a child, bringing them back to life, and the child is purely evil. It's a sad film, it's a scary film, and don't even get me started on Zelda. Zelda may be one of the most terrifying characters in horror history, at least for me. Watching that as a kid, it really scared me, because she would freak me out. I'd be laying in bed at night thinking she was in the corner of my room. I hated it. But great movie, great themes. It was just a good time all around. Yeah, that's my number 10. Let's move right on to number 9. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit with number 9, and I know I'm cheating already, but I'm going to go back to the old classic Universal monster movies. There's nothing that says Halloween horror movies like a classic Universal black and white monster film. I kind of narrowed it down to two: Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein, the sequel. Classic films. Frankenstein is synonymous with Halloween, just like Michael Myers and whatnot. I still get emotional watching, especially Bride of Frankenstein, till this day. It's a great story, some great lines, and I think it does mostly hold up for a 30s film. But honestly, you could put any Universal classic monster movie in this spot, and I'd be fine with it. But you gotta watch one at least a year, because it's just classic. They're classics. They were great for a reason, and the stories still hold up. Maybe not the effects, but the stories do. And I think seeing Boris Karloff as Frankenstein, that makeup is still awesome to this day.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! It's alive! In the name of God! Now I know what it feels like to be God!
Next up, number 8, Evil Dead 2. You gotta have a good comedy horror to lighten up the terrifying mood of the spooky season. And Evil Dead 2 perfectly meshes horror and comedy together, and it brings us a great icon in Ash Williams. Evil Dead 2 is not my favorite in the franchise. I think it's probably Evil Dead 2013. I think that movie's great. But I think Evil Dead 2 perfectly harnesses what Halloween and fall should be. And it gives off those perfect vibes, and I dig it entirely. It has a great atmosphere, a fun story, great effects, and I think it holds up more than the first movie, at least. It has more character to it than the first movie. Next up, this may be a sin putting this too low, but I gotta put it here. The Exorcist from 1973. It's a long movie, number one, and it is a very grueling film to get through. The movie is a slow burner, but it is still pretty terrifying. I think when people say this is the most terrifying movie ever made, I agree with it. I could agree with it. For me, it's not, but I could see why. It is disturbing. you have all this terrible stuff happening to this little girl, and it is tough to watch through. And I could only imagine watching this in the 70s, having not seen anything
Of
like
the
it
Holy
before.
Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damien!
The paranormal exorcist genre is so watered down that watching this probably loses a bit because of it, but I think it still holds up really well. It is directed beautifully, and we could only hope that The Exorcist Believer is anywhere near as good as this. Even if it's half as good as this, I'd still be satisfied. But this movie's great. Still some really good effects, disturbing imagery, and a good story. Number 6, we got another black and white film. I promise this is my last black and white film on this list, but we see it all over in Halloween-esque movies. They always have it on in the background, and there's a reason for it. It's Night of the Living Dead from 1969, George Romero's classic. I love this zombie movie. It may be my most favorite zombie movie of all time. Now, it doesn't have the gore that you would normally want to see in it, but it's simplistic. Everything about it works perfectly. And I knew the spoilers going into it because we all know what zombies do, what happens when you get bit. But I think it works phenomenally well. I love it from beginning to end. And I think deciding to go with black and white, because color movies were out at this time, but he chose black and white for a reason, and it fits it. And I love the lead character in it. I forget the character's name, but he was great all throughout it. I was really rooting for him, and that ending is a tough ending to get through, just because he was right there. It kind of reminds me of the ending of The Mist. They were right there. It was so close, and then it didn't need to be. And that's how I felt about the ending of Night of the Living Dead. Great movie, holds up very well. Don't expect a gore show. That's not until Dawn of the Dead. So this movie is just a classic zombie film, the one that started it all. Basically the Psycho of the zombie genre.
Stop it now, I mean it.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
Stop it. You're ignorant.
They're coming for you, Barbara.
Number 5, we are getting to a film that is actually set on Halloween, and it came out last year. It is Terrifier 2. I was surprised by this film because I hate the first movie, or I very much dislike it. I watched it once a few years back, did not like it at all. I saw a lot of potential in Art the Clown, but aside from that, I'm like, this is not directed well. It looks terribly cheap, and the acting is all bad. So they got a bigger budget, came out with Terrifier 2, went to go see it, and my golly, it is a bloodbath, but it explores Art the Clown and the lore much deeper, and although it's a bit more fantastical, I really like the lore that they gave him, and I'm digging the world. And Art the Clown is actually kind of funny and scary at the same time. It's awesome.
Oh, kids, look how cool! Oh my god. So cool. Ew, why am I so sticky?
Don't worry, it's just fake blood. Just put it in the bag.
I like it.
Alright, thank you.
Let's go. Happy Halloween. Happy Halloween.
Not only that Art the Clown was great, you have Serena. She was fantastic. She might be, I can't wait for the sequel, but she may be like top tier final girls of all time. They knocked it out of the park. I'm looking forward to a sequel. It is a great Halloween movie. It's not for everyone because of how gory it is, but if you get past that, you'll have a really good time with it.
Come. Sit here beside me on the veranda.
So number 4, this one just oozes fall Halloween vibes.
It's chilly out here.
It is Fright Night from 1985, and you got a whole bunch of great characters in it. It's a great movie, some great dialogue. Here's what it is. It's Breakfast Club meets Rear Window / Disturbia and a vampire movie, and it works perfectly. It works so well. It is an awesome little combination of films. You got the characters feel like they could have come right out of Breakfast Club, and then you obviously got the story beats of Rear Window, and then instead of a killer being next door, it's a vampire. Then you have the radio or the movie host, TV host, the vampire hunter, the fake actor vampire hunter. He's great. You have a great mesh of comedy and horror, great characters, great themes, and even great effects. I think the vampire effects, when he's like monstrous looking, works very well to this day. It's great. It's great stuff. A great movie that holds up very much to this day, and maybe my favorite vampire movie coming out of the 80s. I don't know. Lost Boys is still very good.
Do you want to see my face?
Next up, Haunt from 2019. We got another film set on Halloween, only came out a few years ago, and I had a blast with this one as well. Very suspenseful. Yeah, you have a group of people going to a haunted house, like a haunt, an attraction, and they go inside and they realize the attraction is not fake, it's real. It's kind of like Houses of October Built, I believe that's the movie. That was like a found footage film, and that movie was decent. I think this movie is the perfect way to handle that premise, and they do it well. There's a really cool reveal toward the end of the movie that I surely wasn't expecting, and I'm like, oh, it's just a whole bunch of people masks. No, it's not. It's got some really cool imagery. You got a decent final girl. She's not the best. Definitely Serena's better from Terrifier 2, but she's good. All the characters are good, nothing great. And you got some really good kills, got some really good tension and suspense. You got some awesome villains. I love the villains in this movie. Oh, yes, I do. And I wouldn't mind if there was a sequel set, because I just love the vibe of Halloween. I love movies set on Halloween, and this movie gives it to me.
Where's everybody? Should have been out by now.
Do you still want to see my face? Oh, I think you'll like it.
Number 2, we got Poltergeist.
Poltergeist. It knows what scares you.
This movie is a perfect entry-level horror film. It is a perfect haunted house movie. The effects are a lot of fun. It's a mix. I guess Steven Spielberg and Tobe Hooper directed it. For right now, I'm saying Tobe Hooper was the main mind behind this because his name's on it. But you also feel a lot of Steven Spielberg vibes coming off this film. You have a great cast of characters. You have a great family that you want to root for. I think it's better than any paranormal movie made today, including The Conjuring and Insidious. In fact, I think Insidious is basically a remake of this movie. You just watch the movie Insidious and watch this. The story beats are very similar. It's not too scary that you can't watch it with your kids, but it's spooky enough that it will give them the creeps. But I think this movie's great. You have some genuine creepy imagery. Even the ghost effects, they don't really hold up, but they're fun. I love the effects of it, like with the hand coming out of the TV. It's got a perfect little Halloween vibe to it. It has a good fall spooky season vibe to it. So if you haven't seen Poltergeist, go watch it. You're definitely missing out. But my number one of all time, it is Trick or Treat from 2007. Michael Dougherty, I think that's his name. I think that movie is a classic. It creates an icon of horror in Sam. If you go into Spirit Halloween, he's on their shirts. He's everywhere in Spirit Halloween. It's crazy how he has become such an icon based off one movie that he isn't even the focus on. Oh man, I want there to be a Trick or Treat too, because I want to see more of Sam. Not exploring his history and his past, I care less about that. I just want to see more of him because he has this childlike wonder to him, even though he's like this demon, maybe. I don't even know what he is. He's basically the Santa Claus of Halloween. And I like that you have to follow these Halloween rules or traditions or he's going to come after you. Aside from him, though, you have some really fun stories because it's an anthology movie. You have some really fun stories to dive into that are all perfectly connected with each other. And the way to connect it is a lot of fun. And I gotta say, the werewolf transformation scene, oh man, it's freaky, it's sexy. You got Marilyn Manson's Sweet Dreams playing over top of it. It's definitely a good time. This movie is great. I watch it every single year. This movie is Halloween in a nutshell. It might be even more Halloween-y, more October feels than the original Halloween. I might put this above the original Halloween. It's not that it's a better film, but it's better for the October season. Alright guys, that's it. We just went through the top 10 best horror films to watch in the month of October to get you ready for Halloween in just 31 days. We have a lot to get going on this channel. We have a lot of videos coming up. We have a lot of fun stuff to see. So stay tuned. If you want to see more, like and subscribe. We got a big Halloween marathon. We're watching all 13 Halloween movies back to back to back. That'll be coming up towards the end of the month. Alright guys, have a nice, safe, and spooky October.